Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 2 review series. And today I am going to be talking about episode 11, Truth and Consequences, which I have just finished watching. And this episode was absolutely fantastic and a great follow-up from episode 10. This episode had its all: great Superman action, emotions at an all-time high. We basically watched the Kent's family start to buckle under the pressure of carrying the weight of Clark Kent's Superman secret on their shoulders. And just like in the title, Truth and Consequences, with every action, there is a consequence. And this was the theme for this episode. And I thought this was absolutely fantastic, as I mentioned. You know, with every episode, you watch it and you think, wow, that was really good. Are they going to top that? And guess what? They do. And what I like about the show, aside from the twists that they deliver, they always know how to outdo themselves and they always leave you wanting more. And that's what I like about the show, is you never really sit there and think, yeah, that wasn't a very good episode. I don't think I want to watch it anymore. This show, what they've done is they've made every episode feel like a mini movie. You know, you've heard me say this before many, many times, but they condense every episode and make it feel like a mini movie, and they pack so much into it. And this episode was no exception. To me, it was like I was watching a movie. You know, I've said that before lots of times. Every episode feels like a mini movie, and they deliver big time. So before we get into talking about episode 11, I'm just going to give a quick recap of what's happened so far. So, as we all remember, Superman ended up in the inverse, which was Bizarro World, and he saw his family, who are Bizarros, but not in the way we all know. On that world, Superman is in the spotlight, he's in the public eye, as are the Kent family, and we see that Jonathan and Superman in that world don't see eye to eye. You know, we see Talro is very much in the family, we see a Bizarro Lana who's got superpowers, and we learn that Anderson was trapped in the inverse world. He ended up getting killed by Jonathan, who is now calling himself John L., who looks like a emo version of Connor Kent. It's really weird. And we learn that Ali's agenda now is, with the pendant, she has fused with her Bizarro self and has become like a godlike being with unbelievable power. And we saw at the end, on that world, Superman is in the spotlight, he's in the public eye, as are the Kent family, and we see that Jonathan and Superman in that world don't see eye to eye. You know, we see Talro is very much in the family, we see a Bizarro Lana who's got superpowers, and we learn that Anderson was trapped in the inverse world. He ended up getting killed by Jonathan, who is now calling himself John L., who looks like a emo version of Connor Kent. It's really weird. And we learn that Ali's agenda now is, with the pendant, she has fused with her Bizarro self and has become like a godlike being with unbelievable power. And we saw at the end of episode 10, John L. went back to Earth Prime with Superman hot on his tail. And we saw at the very end of that episode, John L. shows up on the farm. Lois obviously knows that's not her son, and she says to him, "What do you want?" And John L. says, "I'm here for him." And we see him pointing towards Jonathan Kent, and that's how we ended episode 10. Great setup, and this episode more or less picks up from where we left off at the end of episode 10. And in a way, you could kind of look at episode 10 and 11 as a two-part episode because they both are connected to each other. And, it was just very well done. And, as I said in the last review, what I liked about the Bizarro world was, they've done this in the comics, but I like how they did it in the show. Square Planet, check. Red Sun affects Superman, check. Red Sun makes Bizarro stronger, check. Jonathan Kent in that world has got powers, check. Jordan has no powers in that world, but he has powers on this world. So the way they played off on the polar opposites of the other was just excellent. I thought they did a really good job with those aspects. So with that all said, let's get straight into it. Let's talk about episode 11, Truth and Consequences. So this episode pretty much picks up from where we left off at the end of episode 10, and we see John L. tries to merge with Jonathan using the pendant, and we see Jordan tries to step in to stop him, and we see the two of them go at it for a little bit, but obviously John L. is still too strong for Jordan to overcome, and we see Superman arrive just in the nick of time from the portal and stops John L. from merging with Jonathan. And we see Jonathan is experiencing the same visions that Superman was experiencing when Bizarro arrived on Earth, and Clark suggests using Jonathan's visions as a way to track down John L. And we see John L. is in Smallville, and before Clark can stop him, he is stopped by Lana, unaware that he has been gone for a month and completely oblivious to the fact that Lana won the election. So it's interesting because, to Superman, it feels like he's been in Bizarro world for like maybe a day or a few hours, but he's been actually gone for a month. So it was quite interesting how the way time moves that way. I remember in an episode of Smallville in season 8 where Lois and Clark were trapped in the Phantom Zone, and it seemed like they were there for a few hours, but I think they were like there for like a month, maybe a month or two. Even the same with Clark and Oliver in season 10. They felt like they were in there for a couple of hours. They're actually there for like 3 weeks. So it's quite interesting the way that time moves in these parallel worlds. It's really interesting. So we see John L. intimidates Sarah in her new car. We see him kidnaps Lana after like shoulder barging her and sending her flying. It was really, really creepy stuff here and very shocking moments as well. And we realise that what John L is trying to do is he's trying to merge Lana with Bizarro Lana. So very intense stuff going on here. We see in this episode as well, we see John Henry Irons and his daughter Natalie are looking for more of the XK, which is what caused Jonathan to go off the rails in the first place. And we see Bizarro Lana comes from the inverse world and takes out John Henry and Natalie. And we also see in this episode as well that Lois realizes that, it's not really good to hide the truth. And Jonathan calls out Clark for, lying to him for years that he was Superman. So you could really see in this episode, the weight of carrying all these secrets is really starting to take its toll on everybody, especially Jordan. And we see also in this episode, as I mentioned, Bizarro Lana takes out Natalie and John Henry, and Natalie manages to stab her with XK, and Lana pretty much says that I'll be back, sort of thing. And we see Jordan and John L go at it. And this was actually the first time we saw Jordan take to the skies. We actually see him fly, and this was actually a really good moment. Jordan taking a beating and then dishing a beating of his own on John L, and the two of them going at it up in the sky. It was just an epic battle on cinematic proportions. It was just really, really good. And we see Jordan knocks out John L, and Jordan like falls from the sky, and Superman manages to, save his son. And we see that he goes to rescue Lana, and obviously John L's there and sets a trap for him, and he ends up getting covered in kryptonite after a gas bomb goes off in the factory, and Lana manages to save Superman after John L just pretty much stabs Superman with a shard of kryptonite, very similar to Superman Returns when Lex Luthor stabbed Superman with kryptonite. And we see Superman and Jordan take out John L, and he's remanded in DOD custody, and we pretty much see towards the end of this episode, Clark comes to the decision that he needs to tell Lana the truth about who he really is. And with his family's blessing, we see Clark tell Lana that he is really Superman by taking off his glasses and then just floats up in the sky. And that's how we pretty much end episode 11. Overall, I thought this was a really good episode. I thought this was fantastic. The only annoying thing I would probably say is I don't really understand why Lana Lang doesn't know that Clark is Superman. I mean, I've read a lot of the Superman comics. I watched the animated series. Lana Lang was actually, aside from the Kents, because they found him, but Lana Lang actually was the first person to know that, Clark Kent had superpowers. So to have Lana not know after all these years, I don't know, really, just seems a bit weird. You'd have thought she'd be right in there, knowing everything about Clark and what he could do. Obviously, they probably want to put their own spin on things and take things in a different direction, but it just didn't really make a lot of sense to me why Lana wouldn't know after all these years. But, she knows now, and it sets up for a very interesting episode 12, the fallout or the aftermath of Lana now knowing the truth about Clark Kent being Superman. I just thought this was absolutely brilliant. I think how this episode will play out is I think we're going to see a full-on Bizarro invasion with all of the Bizarros coming from the inverse world, led by Ali as they try to merge with their own human self for ultimate power. I think that's how this is going to play out. But yeah, overall, fantastic episode. Great follow-up to episode 10. And I'm really looking forward to episode 12. I think it's going to be a real barn burner, as they say. I think this is going to be a really good one, and this show just continues to keep getting better and better. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on episode 11? Did you enjoy it? How do you feel about Lana now knowing the truth about Clark being Superman? How do you think she will take to this news? Do you think she'll be mad? Do you think they'll probably drag this out for a bit longer, or do you think they might just wrap it up very quickly? And also, what was your thoughts on John L trying to merge with Jonathan Kent? Do you think this could be the start of a Bizarro invasion? And also, what was your thoughts on Jordan flying for the first time and taking the fight to John L? Do you think we might see him fly again? And also, what was your thoughts on, the whole merging with the other selves? How do you think that's going to play out too? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Superman and Lois Season 2 review series, where I am going to be talking about episode 12, which I am very much looking forward to talking about and seeing, especially with the way this episode ended. Should be a real good one, and I can't wait. So until next time, Take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.